Fight podcast. This is Glenn Baker with you today, y'all. This is good time. We're having a good time, having a lot of fun, getting chances to meet some great people. Today we got in the studio Matt Schlepp, and he's the C. What is your title, Matt? You're CEO.
Who cares? How about this? I run CPAC. Does that work?
Buddy, I like that even better. And you're from Kansas, so you and I actually probably can communicate. You may be one of the few people that I talk to on a weekly basis that gets my redneckisms.
Well, I was not a wrestler like you. I was a tennis player in Wichita, Kansas. But I will tell you that some of the best tennis players I played against were from these little towns in Oklahoma. These guys were good players. And so I have mixed feelings about Oklahoma. I didn't like losing to you guys.
You know what? I had a buddy that was one of the top tennis players in Oklahoma, and you and I are about the same age.
What's his name?
A guy named Taylor Foreman.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, he was good. He was good. Well, let's get right down to business, young man. So I'm going to be with you next week, but
good.
Tell us about CPAC. Tell us how you got involved and how that came together and what you're doing for our country.
Well, CPAC has always been this really unusual, unique thing where conservatives from around the country came together to plot and plan and hear from the leaders and figure out how we could, first of all, take over the Republican Party and then take over the country. And what's happened over the course of the last decade is it's gone global. We're having these CPAC events in these continents all over the world. We're building conservative movements with other good conservative groups all over the world. And so CPAC next week is going to have a little bit of an international flair, but at the heart of it, it's still all about America. Because, if we lose America, freedom's dead on this earth. And the people that are fighting these other countries really understand that. So that's what we're working on. And you know what? I'm still in an awfully good mood. I love getting rid of paper straws. I love getting rid of low flow shower heads and toilets. I love sending criminals back to their home countries, no matter what the Pope says. I like all of this.
Man, you sound like a fascist to some people.
A couple of years ago, you would have offended me. Now, I've been called a racist and a fascist so many times. I love when I get called a racist and I see all the blacks and Hispanics and Asians are voting my way. So I have a feeling that charge isn't right. And by the way, on the fascism, who are the people in our country that are telling everybody what they must think, what pronouns they must use, and you must use the pronouns they say, and what flag you must put up, and what flag you must take down, and what national anthem you must sing? Those are all the leftists, it seems to me. They're the fascists.
Well, it is, and take those slurs as scars of battle. That's what I'm doing anymore. I used to get so offended when people didn't like me. I'm to the point, really, in my life, I just don't give a crap anymore. I don't care. I'm a combat veteran. I sing country music, back in music after being out for 17 years. I'll tell you real quickly. I lost my freedom in 2017. I spent 73 days in 2 separate jail cells for something I didn't even know had happened. It was by a former partner. I lost my home, my car,
Wow.
80% of my business, and the night after I got home, an infection I'd caught in that jail that they wouldn't treat me for went into my right eye and destroyed my cornea. And God used all of that in an amazing way. And he takes the crap that's meant to kill us by the world and can turn it into something good if we have faith and we trust him. And so now
I believe that, brother. I believe that God works in amazing ways, and we just have to trust in him even in the dark times.
Well, we do, and I don't even care if that offends people anymore. If you're going to be offended by God, that's something you couldn't be offended by anything better. So that's the kind of person that I am, and the people that I deal with an awful lot are normal, everyday guys that have been called out by God Almighty to be part of this battle. Because don't get it twisted, we're in a war, we're in a battle right now. Tell me a little bit about you and where you come from, Matt.
Well, like we talked about, I was raised mostly in Wichita, but my parents moved around quite a bit. I was born in Ohio. Spent some time in Houston, Texas. I was an Oilers fan at one point, and in New Jersey. And I just always loved politics. And I got involved in politics at a young age. I've probably been involved in politics my whole adult life. I worked for a congressman from Wichita by the name of Todd T. Hart, who's a great human being. Did a great job in Congress. And then I worked for George W. Bush on his campaign in 2000. I got to the White House, met my future wife at the White House, and we have 5 kids, 5 daughters. Yes, you should pray for me. and and they're great kids. I got 2 in college, 2 in high school, 1 in grammar school, and Mercy and I agree on most things politically, not everything, most things politically. One thing we really agreed on is that Donald Trump was going to be great for the country, so we stood by Trump, and she worked for him in the first term, and I'm immensely proud of that.
That's wonderful, man. And I didn't learn in my marriage. I was married for 20 years. 2 things that you really need to learn and take to heart is these phrases: "Yes, ma'am," and "I'm sorry." And you'll have a wonderful life, I think. So
And
you
don't
work
ask
for.
her, and don't ask her how much it costs. Just take out your Amex.
Oh, exactly. So she worked in the White House. You've worked in the White House.
Yes.
You spent time with Donald Trump.
Yes.
I live 30 minutes from Mar-a-Lago. Been there a couple of times. Not had the chance to sit down with him. I was not a great big fan of Donald Trump before he ran for office. The moment he went down the escalator and announced his candidacy, and I saw the world turn against him, I immediately liked him
Yeah.
because I knew there was something going on there. Give us your take about Donald Trump on a personal level.
So I met with him a couple times in his office in Trump Tower as I was taking over the board of CPAC, and I immediately liked him. But I liked him when I was young because I told you I spent a couple years in New Jersey, and he famously, saved the ice skating rink at Rockefeller Center. He did all these like amazing things. He was always the guy that seemed like he could get the job done. And I was fascinated by watching him on those talk shows that used to dominate everything with him and his first wife, God rest her soul. And so I met with him, and I felt a kinship with him immediately. I liked him immediately. We're probably very different kinds of people. I didn't think he'd be the president. I didn't see that when he came down the escalator. I didn't see that resulting in him being president. But I remember I did an MSNBC interview that day, and they said, he's a racist because he said all Mexicans are rapists. And I remember this split second in my head. I was like, I guess this is how it's going to go with Trump. I'm going to get asked a million times to condemn his statement. And I had met with him a couple times, enough to like him and feel like that's not who he was.
Right.
And I decided to switch one off in my head, which is like, this is ridiculous what they're saying about him. And from that moment forward, it's been a hell of a bumpy ride. But I have to say, his resurrection politically it's epic. It's one of the most amazing stories of history. It's positively biblical. And watching him in that Oval Office and thinking that my wife and I played some small role in helping to get him there, like I said, I'm immensely proud of that.
Well, and that's going to be a story that's told for generations to come. It is pretty amazing, whether you like him or whether you don't. You got to admit that is powerful. For a guy to be completely persecuted for 8 years now, maybe a little bit longer, maybe 9, violated his rights, violated. He said lawfare like I've never imagined. And I experienced lawfare. In the United States, supposedly we're innocent until proven guilty, and I don't believe that's really true any longer in most instances.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's just not. I mean, I literally lost everything over an accusation without any evidence. So I've lived it. And, the J6 guys, a lot of them were absolutely thrown underneath the bus.
That's right.
And for the left to stand up and scream now that he pardoned violent criminals, man, y'all weren't there. And when you got a political party or affiliated with a political party that has all the power in the government as well as in the legal system, you honestly don't hardly stand a chance.
Yeah, no, we do a lot of work in criminal justice reform at CPAC, and the reason why I feel so passionate about it is because I've seen friends who were persecuted, prosecuted just because of their political beliefs. Our system is really broken. Look, I think the border and the economy were big pieces of Trump being elected, but as much as I want him to seal the border, I think the most important thing he and Pam Bondi could do is return some sense of justice back to this country. And part of that is firing these prosecutors that made stuff up about Trump or J6 or whatever. But the other piece is I think the victims of our system need to be compensated for all the money they spent on lawyers in a corrupt process. Think about J6. They spent 4 years being prosecuted, persecuted, bankrupted. We had several suicides, divorces, kids that'll never be the same, families that were destroyed. And then you look at BLM, and Kamala Harris is bailing these people out of jail within 24 hours. That was seen as a grievance that was acceptable. But the J6 people, after all the election fraud, that wasn't seen as a grievance that was acceptable. So the politics only works one way. It helps the left, and it goes after the people on the right. And even if there are some people in the J6 crowd that did things they shouldn't have done, committed crimes, they spent 4 years, all of their money, in prison, in courtrooms. At what point, after all that fraud, do we just say, okay, enough is enough? And I think that's where Trump's mind was, is he didn't want to go through every case and figure out who did what. He was like, look, we spent 4 years torturing these people. Enough's enough. Let's press reset. Let's give them their lives back. He did that to the pro-life protesters as well. And there's got to be one system of justice for Democrats that's the same for Republicans. And right now we have two systems.
Yeah. The double standard is almost beyond belief for me. And I think for most people. You know what? I know you're busy. You've got 100 probably interviews over the course of the next week. Let's talk real quickly about your role as the leader of CPAC and what do you would like to get accomplished through this? And then a follow-up real quick. What can the average person do to take part in this fight?
Yeah, so the average person should feel incredibly empowered because Donald Trump didn't win because of money. Donald Trump won because of you. Donald Trump won because people that have their name on the front of their shirts or drive a truck or are a teacher or a cop, or quite honestly, a new American from Central America or Mexico or some other place, or someone who's been here a long time and is a black voter and is being told that they are a Democrat for life, whether they like it or not because of the color of their skin. All those people just didn't take it anymore, and they stood up and they voted for Trump, and it was brave to do, and they saved the country. And I just want them to know, very especially for me, that as I travel around the world, I was just in London, I was in Hungary meeting with the Prime Minister there, Orban, I was in Poland. Everybody said the same thing before the election. They said, if you could just save America, you're going to give us all hope that we can push back on the EU globalists or push back on the Chinese communists in Asia, all these pernicious problems we have around the country. It started with Trump winning, and we're inspiring people to stand up all over this globe. This is an incredibly powerful time, not just with the president doing his EOs at the Resolute desk, but it's going to be a powerful time all over the globe. You're going to see governments fall because average people in America have the guts to be for Trump.
Well, this is not a time for the weak, and that's why I think Finish This Fight, my new movie, has got an important title. And what I tell people when we talk on a daily basis, do not sit back down. Thank you for standing up. Thank you for poll watching. Thank you for holding people accountable. Thank you for doing the things that had to be done on a local level. But just because Trump's in, don't sit down. He still needs our help. We've got to finish this fight. Matt, one last thing. I'm a newbie to CPAC. I'm going to be there for the very first time.
Good.
Get a chance to meet you. What can I expect?
You know what I want to talk to you about, Glenn, is what your takeaway is when you leave.
Okay.
Here's the one thing I'm always impressed with. Happy people. You know, when you go hang out with, I live in Washington, D.C., when you hang out with these people, they're miserable sons of bitches. I mean, they're bitching and complaining about everything. They're not happy about anything. They look miserable. When I go to CPAC, what's amazing to me, people often use the word revival. You'll feel like you're at a revival. You're going to be with people that respect each other. You're not all going to agree with each other, but you're going to be with people who generally have an optimistic, sunny attitude about their life and about this great country that we're in. And that's something we lost as a country. Reagan helped get that back for us. I think Trump's going to do the same thing.
I agree, young man. Well, we're going to let you go, but do you have any final thoughts before we do?
There's no Oklahoma discount, for your tickets. I know you'll try.
Brother, we need to have a talk off camera about that.
Well, don't worry. I'm not either a KU or a K-State or a Wichita State fan, although I did go to Wichita State. My undergraduate school's in Indiana, so we can call a truce, okay?
Okay, Indiana. See, I am not a sports guy, believe it or not, even though I was an athlete. I don't watch sports, but the Indiana, what's their mascot?
Well, I went to Notre Dame, so I'm a fighting Irishman.
Oh, no. Okay, all right, I get you. Well, brother, I look forward to meeting you. Guys, this is Finish This Fight podcast. We're doing some great things. Support CPAC. Support things of the conservative values. Support the people that are making a difference. Matt Schlapp is one of those. And thank you for being on the show today, young man.
God bless you, Glenn. See you next week.
All right, brother. See you
All
then.
right. Bye-bye.